In this episode, we will look at a very popular case that has captured the attention of crime enthusiasts over the decades. It is the case of the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like this video. In the early hours of March 1, 1932, the Lindberghs' lives were forever changed. The family was known for their wealth, fame, and prominent status, as Charles Lindbergh Sr. was a well-known aviator and hero of the time. His wife, Anne Lindbergh, was equally well-known, as she was an accomplished writer and poet, and the couple had a young son together, Charles Lindbergh Jr. Charles Jr. was very well loved by his parents, and it was not uncommon to see loving photos of the baby on the pages of local newspapers, as the family was a typical portrayal of the American dream. But the idyllic life of the Lindbergh family was shattered when Charles Sr. went on a trip. Anne was staying at their family home in New Jersey with a baby, while Charles Sr. was away on business. It was a typical evening until Anne went to check in on their son and found that he was missing. The baby's crib was empty, and there were signs of forced entry. The entire household was in a state of panic, and the news quickly spread throughout the country. Charles Sr. was informed of the kidnapping while on a business trip to Washington, D.C. He immediately flew back to New Jersey to assist with the search and help his wife cope with the tragedy. The police and FBI were also brought in to investigate, and the search for the Lindbergh baby became a national obsession. The Lindberghs were later contacted by the kidnappers, who demanded a ransom of $50,000 in exchange for the safe return of the baby. On March 6, 1932, a second ransom note was received by Charles Sr., in which the ransom was increased to $70,000. The authorities managed to reduce the ransom amount back to $50,000 after several back and forth between the Lindberghs and the kidnappers. Charles Sr. agreed to pay the ransom, and the money was delivered to a drop-off point in the Bronx. Despite the ransom being paid, the kidnappers did not return the baby. The kidnappers had said that the baby would be found on a boat named Nellie near Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. But this was not the case. It soon became apparent that this was not a simple kidnapping, but rather a premeditated crime. On March 12, 1932, the body of the kidnapped baby was accidentally discovered about 4 miles southeast of the Lindbergh home. The discovery was made by a truck driver as they were driving along the highway. They called the police, and the body was positively identified as belonging to baby Charles Lindbergh. Coroner's reports indicated that the baby had been dead for at least 2 months. This means that all this time that the Lindbergh family had been negotiating with the kidnappers, the baby had already been dead. Initially, the investigation was focused on finding the person or group responsible for the kidnapping. The police and the FBI worked tirelessly to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and track down leads. Progress was slow, and the kidnappers remained elusive. Then, a breakthrough came in the form of the ransom money that the Lindberghs had paid to the kidnappers. Some of the ransom money, which had been pre-marked by police, was later discovered in circulation, which raised suspicion that the kidnappers were spending it. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York discovered 296 $10 gold certificates and one $20 gold certificate, all belonging to the Lindbergh ransom notes. The bills were deposited as a lump sum. The police and FBI began to trace the money, hoping that it would lead them to the kidnappers. One deposit ticket had the name and address of a person by the name J.J. Faulkner. This depositor was never located by investigators. Examination of the depositor's handwriting showed that it matched those on the ransom notes. On August 20, 1934, more gold certificates were discovered in the vicinity of Yorkville and Harlem. They followed a trail of bills to a gas station in New York, where the attendant had written down the license plate of the car used by the person who'd paid with some of the ransom money. The car was traced back to Richard Hauptmann, who was found to have a criminal record and lived in the Bronx. Further investigation revealed that Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant who had a criminal record and was known for his skills in carpentry, had a large sum of money in his possession that matched gold certificates used in the ransom exchange. This would later play a crucial role in the case. Hauptmann had a considerable amount of cash on hand, which he claimed was from his business as a carpenter. Police found other evidence that linked him to the crime. They found wood in Hauptmann's attic that matched the wood used to make the ladder used in accessing the baby's room on the night of the kidnapping. Additionally, handwriting analysis showed that Hauptmann had written some of the ransom notes. One of the people that Hauptmann used in delivering the ransom notes, Joseph Perron, was able to positively ID him as the one who gave him the 5th ransom note to deliver to the Lindberghs. During this time, a man by the name of Dr. Condon, who was the one to deliver the ransom money to a stranger, was also able to identify Hauptmann as the stranger to whom the ransom was paid to. Hauptmann was arrested and put on trial for the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr. The trial was highly publicized and attracted widespread attention from the media and the public. Hauptmann maintained his innocence throughout the trial, but the evidence presented against him was damning. One of the key pieces of evidence was the ladder that had been used to access the baby's room on the night of the kidnapping. The ladder was traced back to Hauptmann's carpentry workshop, where it was discovered that some of the wood used to make the ladder matched the wood in Hauptmann's attic. Additionally, handwriting analysis showed that Hauptmann had written some of the ransom notes. Despite his protestations of innocence, Hauptmann was found guilty of the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr. He was sentenced to death by electric chair, which was carried out on April 3, 1936. The death of the Lindbergh baby was a tragedy that shook the nation. The case had captured the attention of the entire country, and the Lindberghs became a symbol of grief and loss. People could relate to the suffering they went through, and as a result, the Lindbergh law was passed in response to the case, which made kidnapping a federal offense punishable by death in the U.S. This case also had a significant impact on forensic science, as it highlighted the importance of handwriting analysis and other forms of physical evidence in criminal investigations. Until next time, humans, stay safe out there.